大家好，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到沉思者 J。 有一种人，他不曾站上舞台，不曾领导革命，也不曾发明任何机器，他只是坐下来，拿起笔，写吃饭这件事，然后一整个国家的厨房就这样被他改变了。他叫伊丽莎白大卫，英国人，飲食作家，被誉为20世纪最重要的厨房革命家。但他本人会说，他从来不是什么革命家，他只是个爱吃饭、爱旅行、爱好好生活的女人。今天我们来聊聊这位把吃饭写成诗的女士。听完你可能会想，晚餐要认真对待了。伊丽莎白大卫出生于1913年，英格兰萨塞克斯郡，一个典型的上流社会家庭。父亲是保守党的下议院议员，母亲是个典型的英国贵妇。她有4个姊妹，家里有佣人，有厨师，有花园。但是那种生活让她窒息。英国20世纪初的上流社会饮食乏善可陈，每天的餐桌上是煮得软烂的蔬菜，是寡淡的炖肉，是没有灵魂的白酱。食物是一种义务，不是一种享受。小伊丽莎白从小就觉得这不对，吃饭应该是快乐的事。她16岁去了法国，在巴黎学法语，寄住在一个法国家庭里。那个家庭的主妇每天煮饭前都会去市集仔细挑选食材，她挑番茄的眼神像在选艺术品，她调起丝的方式充满了仪式感，然后端上桌的食物简单却让人久久难忘。伊丽莎白说，就是那个时候她明白了，吃饭是一件严肃的事，一件值得用心对待的事。回到英国后，她读了一阵子书，然后又跑去欧洲，在希腊学希腊语，在意大利到处乱晃，在法国再次沉浸在市集和厨房的香气里。她的青年时期就是这样在地中海的阳光和食物里度过的。1939年，战争爆发了，伊丽莎白当时在希腊，她在战乱中辗转逃难，去了埃及，在开罗待了很长一段时间，后来又到了印度，最后1946年她回到了英国，回到了那个阴暗、寒冷、战后物资匮乏的英国。那个英国，食物限量配给，奶油、糖、肉全部都要凭票购买，餐厅端出来的东西一言难尽，整个社会的餐桌弥漫着一种绝望的灰色。伊丽莎白坐在那个阴暗的出租公寓里，开始写作。她写的是她记忆中的地中海，是希腊小渔村里用橄榄油煎的新鲜鱼，是普罗旺斯农家餐桌上一锅加了大蒜和百里香的炖菜，是意大利市集上那种橘黄色的巨大南瓜，切开来有着甜蜜的香气。她写的那么具体，那么有画面感，那么充满了味道和颜色。读她的文字，你几乎能感受到地中海的阳光打在皮肤上的温度。1950年，她的第一本书出版了，书名叫做《地中海饮食书》。这本书在今天看来是一部革命性的作品，但在当时，很多人根本看不懂她要做什么，因为这本书里没有一般食谱书的样子，食材的分量常常是大概的，步骤有时候也是一笔带过，里面有大量的描述，大量的故事，大量的地方文化和历史。他写的不是菜单，他写的是一种生活方式。他写的是，你可以这样对待食物，你可以这样享受生活。刚开始，出版商不敢相信这本书会卖得动。英国正在战后的物资紧缩期，书里很多食材根本买不到，大蒜、橄榄油，在当时的英国超市根本没有这些东西。但这本书还是卖出去了，而且越卖越好，因为人们读到这本书，觉得自己的灵魂被喂饱了。一个英国读者说，他读这本书的时候是在一个冬天的晚上，窗外在下雨，家里的暖气坏掉了，晚餐是冷掉的炸鱼薯条。但他读着书里那些地中海的食物描述，感觉整个人暖了起来。那不只是食物的问题，那是梦想的问题，那是对美好生活的渴望。伊丽莎白大卫的书，在战后物资匮乏的英国，给了人们一个梦，一个有橄榄油、有大蒜、有香草、有阳光的梦。而且他的书 最终真的改变了英国的厨房。现在英国超市货架上那些理所当然存在的橄榄油、意大利面、新鲜香草、各种起司。很多食物史学家说，如果没有伊丽莎白大卫，那些东西不会这么快出现在英国人的日常生活里。它让英国人开始愿意用大蒜。这件事比很多人想象的要难。第一本书大获成功之后，伊丽莎白继续写作。1951年，意大利饮食书出版。他把意大利的地方饮食文化写得无比细腻，北部的米兰炖饭，南部的西西里番茄酱，中部托斯卡纳的橄榄油文化。他亲自跑遍意大利去做研究。他在各地的农家厨房里看主妇们怎么揉面团，怎么熬酱汁。他记录的不只是食谱，而是一种传承了数百年的智慧。1954年，法国乡村料理出版。这本书在英语世界奠定了他饮食作家的权威地位。他以法国各个地区的农家厨房为中心，描绘了一个多元而丰富的法国饮食图景。他写的普罗旺斯让无数英国人开始计划去南法旅行。他写的布列塔尼让人想起海边的咸奶油和新鲜生蚝。每一本书都是一趟味觉上的旅行。伊丽莎白的写作方式非常独特，她不是站在厨师的角度写，她是站在一个热爱生活的读者的角度写。她认为吃饭这件事应该和文学、历史、旅行、艺术紧密相连。她常常在食谱旁边引用诗人或文学家的句子。她会把一道菜的起源追溯到几百年前的历史事件。她会描述做这道菜时的光线、气味、窗外的风景。她的文字让人觉得煮饭不只是一件家务，而是一种创作。但她本人的生活其实并不轻松。伊丽莎白在战后曾短暂结婚，很快离婚。她一个人生活，一个人写作，一个人旅行。她喝酒，有时候喝得很多。她有很多好朋友，但也有很多人觉得她难相处。她对食物的标准极高，对食材的品质要求近乎苛刻。她不能忍受偷工减料，不能忍受随便应付。她说，吃饭是一件诚实的事，你放了多少心，食物会告诉你。1965年，她开了一家厨具店，在伦敦切尔西区。那家店的选品是她个人品味的延伸，里面卖的是她认为值得拥有的厨房器具，素雅的陶碗，厚实的铸铁锅，法国农家风格的亚麻布，没有任何花俏的装饰，只有功能，只有美感，只有对做饭这件事的尊重。那家店后来成为伦敦厨具圈的传奇。1970年，他的一场严重意外让他健康大受损伤。他在浴室摔倒，脑部受伤，影响了他的记忆和写作能力。那段时间，他几乎没办法再像以前那样写作，但他没有完全停笔。他用了很长的时间，写了一本关于面包的书，《英国面包和酵母烹饪》，1977年出版。这本书的研究之深，让所有人震惊。他把英国面包的历史追溯了数百年，研究了各个地区的传统酵母面包。他访问了面包师，翻阅了大量的古老食谱文献。在他受伤之后的状态下，完成这样一本书，需要的不只是才华，而是意志力。他说，写这本书的过程让他重新找回了自己。面包的节奏，揉面的触感，酵母发酵的等待，让他的身体和思想慢慢修复。晚年的伊丽莎白仍然保持着对食物的热情，她仍然去市集买菜，仍然自己煮饭。她的厨房据说简单整洁，没有任何多余的东西，只有最好的橄榄油，最新鲜的香草，几口好锅。1992年，她在伦敦去世，享年78岁。英国各大报纸都以头版位置报道了她的去世。厨师、作家、美食家纷纷写文章追念她。很多人说，她是改变了英国饮食文化的人。伊丽莎白大卫留下了什么？她留下了几本书，几百篇文章。她留下了一种对待食物的态度。她留下了一个问题，留在每一个读过她书的人心里。那个问题是，你今天有没有好好吃饭？她让人明白，吃饭不只是填饱肚子，吃饭是一种自我尊重，是对大自然的感谢。 是对做饭的人的致敬，是对生命本身的珍惜。在战后那个灰暗的英国，他用文字告诉人们，阳光还在。在地中海的某个村子里，有人正在用橄榄油煎鱼，香气飘在空气中。桌上有一杯葡萄酒，一块面包，几个番茄。就这样，已经够了，已经很美了。现在，每次你在超市拿起一瓶橄榄油的时候，可以想一想伊丽莎白大卫。每次你煮饭时多花5分钟去认真挑选食材的时候，可以想一想她。每次你决定把晚餐当做一件值得用心的事情的时候，可以想一想她。因为这些都是她给我们的礼物。好好吃饭，就是好好生活。谢谢你今天陪我聊到这里，我们下次见咯。Hello everyone, I'm Jenny. Welcome to Thinker J. Some people change the world through revolutions, inventions, or grand speeches. And then there are people who simply sit down with a pen and write about food. And somehow, an entire nation's kitchens get transformed. Elizabeth David was one of those people. A British woman. A food writer. Someone widely regarded as the most important kitchen revolutionary of the 20th century. But she would have laughed at that title. She never thought of herself as a revolutionary. She was simply a woman who loved to eat well, loved to travel, and believed that life deserved to be lived with genuine pleasure. Today, we are going to talk about the woman who turned eating into poetry. By the end of this episode, you might feel an urgent need to rethink your dinner plans. Elizabeth David was born in 1913, in Sussex, England. Her father was a member of Parliament for the Conservative Party. Her mother was a proper English aristocratic lady. She had 4 sisters, a household of servants, cooks, and gardeners. Everything was proper, orderly, and utterly suffocating. British upper-class food in the early 20th century was, to put it kindly, dismal. Vegetables boiled into submission. Bland stews with no personality. White sauces that tasted of nothing in particular. Food was treated as an obligation, not a pleasure. Young Elizabeth knew, even as a child, that this was all deeply wrong. At 16, she went to France to study French in Paris. She lived with a French family. And that French family's mother cooked every single day with the kind of focused attention that Elizabeth had never seen before. The woman chose tomatoes at the market like she was selecting pieces of art. She handled cheese with the reverence of a museum curator handling ancient manuscripts. And what ended up on the table was simple food, modest food, but food that made you close your eyes and breathe deeply. Elizabeth said later that this was the moment everything clicked. Food was serious. Food deserved real care, real thought, real attention. After returning to England, she went back to the continent. She studied Greek in Greece. She wandered through Italy without much of a plan. She returned repeatedly to France, drawn back again and again by the markets and the kitchens and the particular quality of afternoon light falling on a table set for lunch. Her young adulthood was spent soaking in Mediterranean sun and Mediterranean food. Then in 1939, war broke out. Elizabeth was in Greece at the time. She fled through the chaos, made her way to Egypt, and spent a significant stretch of time in Cairo. Later she went to India. Finally, in 1946, she came back to England. She came back to a country that was cold, dark, and operating under severe post-war rationing. Butter rationed. Sugar rationed. Meat rationed. Restaurant food that defied description in the worst possible way. A grey fog had settled over every British dining table. Elizabeth sat in her dim rented flat and started to write. She wrote about the Mediterranean she remembered. A freshly caught fish fried in olive oil in a little Greek fishing village. A Provençal farmhouse stew fragrant with garlic and thyme. An enormous orange pumpkin at an Italian market, cut open to reveal its sweet, golden interior. She wrote with an extraordinary specificity. A vividness that made the pages almost smell of something. Reading her words, you could feel Mediterranean sunlight on your skin. In 1950, her first book was published. It was called A Book of Mediterranean Food. Looking back from today, this book was genuinely revolutionary. But at the time, many people were baffled by what it was trying to do. Because it did not look like a normal cookbook. Ingredient quantities were often approximate. Steps were sometimes gestured at rather than spelled out precisely. There were long passages of description, stories, cultural history, and the particular atmosphere of particular places. She was not writing recipes. She was writing a way of life. She was saying, this is how you can treat food, this is how you can live. Her publisher was initially skeptical that the book would sell. Britain was in the middle of post-war austerity. Half the ingredients she wrote about were completely unavailable in British shops. Garlic? Olive oil? These were simply not things you could walk into a British supermarket and find. But the book sold. And it kept selling. Because people read it and felt something move inside them. One British reader described reading the book on a winter evening. Rain on the windows, broken heating, cold fish and chips for dinner. But reading those Mediterranean food descriptions, she felt warm all the way through. That was not really about food. That was about longing. About the human need for beauty and pleasure and sensory richness. Elizabeth David gave post-war Britain something it desperately needed, a dream. A dream made of olive oil and garlic and fresh herbs and warm sunlight. And eventually, that dream became real. Today, the olive oil on the shelf of every British supermarket, the pasta, the fresh herbs, the varieties of cheese, the casual familiarity with cuisines from across the Mediterranean. Food historians often point to Elizabeth David as the person who made all of that possible. She changed what British people were willing to try, willing to cook, willing to buy. She convinced an entire nation to use garlic. That sounds trivial. It was not trivial at all. After the success of her first book, she kept writing. In 1951, Italian Food was published. She wrote about Italian regional cooking with extraordinary depth and tenderness. The risotto of Milan, the tomato sauces of Sicily, the olive oil culture of Tuscany. She had traveled through Italy extensively, doing her research. She watched farm wives knead dough in farmhouse kitchens. She observed how sauces were built over hours, slowly, with patience. She was recording not just recipes but centuries of accumulated kitchen wisdom. In 1954, French Country Cooking was published. This book established her as an unquestioned authority in the English-speaking world on food writing. She moved through the regions of France and painted a picture of French food culture that was diverse, rooted, and deeply alive. Her writing about Provence made thousands of British people start planning trips to the south of France. Her descriptions of Brittany made people imagine salty butter and fresh oysters by the sea. Every book was a journey for the senses. Her writing style was entirely her own. She did not write from the perspective of a professional chef. She wrote from the perspective of someone who loved life and wanted others to love it too. She believed that eating was inseparable from literature, history, travel, and art. She would quote poets alongside recipes. She would trace a dish back centuries to its historical origins. She would describe the light in a kitchen, the smell in the air, the sound of something simmering. She made cooking feel like a form of creative expression. But her personal life was not easy. After the war, Elizabeth married briefly and divorced quickly. She lived alone, worked alone, traveled alone. She drank, sometimes heavily. She had close and loyal friends, but she also had a reputation for being difficult. Her standards for food and cooking were uncompromising. She could not abide shortcuts, could not tolerate carelessness. She said that food was an honest thing. You put in what you put in, and the food reflects exactly how much you cared. In 1965, she opened a kitchen shop in Chelsea, London. The shop was an extension of her personal taste. She stocked simple, beautiful, functional things, plain earthenware bowls, heavy cast iron pans, French linen dish towels. Nothing decorative for the sake of decoration. Nothing unnecessary. Just the tools that made cooking a genuine pleasure. That shop became legendary in London kitchen circles. In 1970, a serious accident damaged her health significantly. She fell in her bathroom, suffered a head injury, and found that her memory and her ability to write had been affected. For a long time, she was unable to work in the way she had before. But she did not stop entirely. Over many years, she wrote a book about bread. English Bread and Yeast Cookery was published in 1977. The depth of research in this book astonished everyone. She traced the history of English bread back hundreds of years. She studied regional traditions of sourdough and yeasted bread. She interviewed bakers and pored over ancient food documents. To complete such a book in her damaged condition took something beyond talent. It took a kind of fierce will. She said later that writing the book helped her heal. The rhythms of bread baking, the physical sensation of kneading dough, the patience required to wait for yeast to work, all of it helped her mind and body slowly find their way back. In her later years, Elizabeth continued to cook for herself and care deeply about what she ate. Her kitchen, by all accounts, was spare and functional. The best olive oil she could find. Fresh herbs. A few good pans. Nothing extra. She died in London in 1992, at the age of 78. Every major British newspaper reported her death on the front page. Chefs, writers, and food lovers wrote tributes. Many said she had done more to transform British food culture than anyone else in the 20th century. What did Elizabeth David leave behind? She left a handful of books and hundreds of essays. She left an attitude toward food. She left a question, quietly planted in the mind of everyone who has ever read her work. That question is, did you eat well today? She understood that eating was not just about nutrition. Eating is a form of self-respect. A way of honoring the natural world that produced your food. A gesture of gratitude toward whoever cooked it. A quiet act of cherishing the fact that you are alive. In the gray aftermath of war, she used words to tell people that warmth and beauty still existed somewhere. That in a small village by the Mediterranean, someone was frying fresh fish in olive oil. The smell was drifting through the warm air. On the table, a glass of wine, a piece of bread, a few tomatoes. That was enough. That was already beautiful. So next time you pick up a bottle of olive oil at the supermarket, think of Elizabeth David. Next time you take an extra 5 minutes to really choose your ingredients before cooking, think of her. Next time you decide that dinner is worth taking seriously, think of her. Because all of that, she helped make possible. To eat well is to live well. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. See you next time.